Well, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have something very, very cool on the table. This is the Liong Mah designed Warrior 2 V3. This is the third version of the Warrior 2. This is an excellent knife made by the folks at Reate and designed, as I said, by Liong Mah. I love Liong Mah's stuff, and in fact, I like him too. I think he's a really cool guy. I've met him a few times. This is just a great knife. It is M390. It is all titanium. It is running on ceramic bearings. It is, well, clearly a tanto tip. It has got a little bit of katana to it in its design. It's just an exquisite piece of hardware. I love the milling on the titanium is beautiful. I love the back spacer. The pocket clip is really nice, but a little pokey. Right there. When this thing's in your pocket, if you reach down and hook this on stuff, you're going to know about it. But that's okay. The folks at Reate make some of my favorite knives. Interestingly enough, not actual Reates, but their OEM stuff. And what am I talking about? Well, stuff like the 229 by Chavez, or the Typhoon by Sharp by Design, the Nadeau Design Typhoon, or the Varga Knives VLD. All of these are made by Reate, and I love their OEM stuff. These are four of my all-time favorite knives. This is fantastic. The V2 of this just dropped. This is a V1 that I happened to get some carbon fiber scales for. Anyway, Reate makes great knives. They are probably, in my opinion, the best factory in the business for this sort of hollow grind tanto shape. Here are three very different knives, but they share that characteristic, and nobody does it quite like Reate. Truth. I love these things. Let's go ahead and put these away. Sorry. Yeah. So this is my first Liong Mah design knife. I have held them many times, but I've never owned one. And I actually got this from the Knife Whisperer. I will put a link to his YouTube channel in the description. And a very nice guy. He was looking to move some of his knives, and this one just spoke to me. And I understand why as soon as it landed in my hand. It is very comfortable. It has that sort of neutral handle that I love so much. And yet there's a ton of style. The pivot on this thing is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It has a lanyard spot back here if you're into that sort of thing, right? Built right into the back spacer. It's got lovely jimping right where your thumb lands. It is a nice long blade in M390, and of course, because it is that Reate hollow grind, it is very, very slicey. Now, these are expensive. $400 or so expensive. Let's not, have any qualms about it. But OEM stuff can be that way, right? And Reate is rapidly becoming they are my favorite factory. So that's just the way that is. Knives are expensive. Expensive knives are expensive. You can get great knives for $100. You really can. Just unstoppable stuff for $100. You can get marvelous tools for right around $100. This is the Terminus XR LTE in S35VN. This is a SOG, and it is very, very well made. It is considerably less expensive than this, but you can tell the difference. You really, really can. I haven't had the other Warrior knives, so I don't know exactly what the differences are. I know that some of them have inlays, whereas this one just has the milled tie. Let's take a look at the basic specs. All right. So you get a little over 3.5 inches of cutting on 3 1/4 and 3 3/4. Excuse me. A little over 3.5 inches of cutting on a little under 3 3/4 inches of M390. The grip area from behind the flipper tab is just over 4 inches, right? Which is why I like this knife so much. There is a ton of room, even for big old hands like mine. The pocket clip, even though it is a little pokey, as I mentioned, is married to the knife in such a way that there's no hot spot. You know it's there, but it's not an issue. The blade has just a lovely amount of belly on it and a nice belly here at the tip of the tanto. There's another knife. You know, similar ideals drove these two knives. Completely different makers and a completely different approach to design, but hollow ground tanto with a nice robust tip, beautiful titanium, a little bit of belly on the tanto, so it's not a a full hard tanto line like you get on the Merchant here from Tour. You can see that's just a hard line, right? These have got a little bit of belly, more of a traditional tanto, as it were, as opposed to the American tanto with the flat line. I've had this for a few weeks now, and every time I carry it, I enjoy it. It is expensive, but man, is it comfortable and good to use. It's got a fantastic closed profile, right? Coming in at, what, just 1.25 inches because of the flipper. Now, it does have a flipper, and the flipper does have jimping, so there is a little bit of pocket peckery, with all due respect to Nick Shabazz, to look out for as this banging around in your pocket. But because it is so lean, you can fit, a flashlight or easily a pen, or anything else you want in your pocket. And it hasn't done any damage to anything that's been in my pocket so far. So the way it's designed is very, very clean. I love that the back spacer has a little cutout right there, and the blade just falls into that cutout. That's really nicely done. It also means you never have to worry about poking your finger on the back of the blade because of the way the back spacer is done. This is a great knife. It has a steel lock bar insert, which is really, really married into the titanium lock bar. It is a frame lock, as you can see. So there's no big chunk of steel visible, but it is there, which means you're going to get a ton of life out of this. And this is locked up at just about 30%. I love the build quality from Reate. I really do. And I very much enjoy Liong Mah's design aesthetic. The knife itself, from tip to tail, is 8.25 inches overall, which puts it very much in line with, it's a little bit longer, a little over 8.25, a little bit longer than the Evo Typhoon here. Let's do some other size comparisons while I've got it on the table. Here it is against the PM2. Very, very similar in length, but the Warrior 2 is a much more convenient carry. Of course, we all know this, right? The PM2 is blocky, right? It takes up a lot of pocket. The Warrior here does none of those things, right? They're about the same thickness, right? So they take up about the same amount of pocket this way. This is just a much nicer carry. The action is fantastic. It doesn't really drop shut. I don't know if that's because it didn't get a lot of use and it hasn't broken in yet. A little bit of wiggle and it closes, but it closes so quietly that I just love it. And of course, the snap on the open is wonderful. Oh, this is a great knife. Oh, the closed length on this guy, 4 and just shy of 4 3/4 inches, right? Plenty of handle. Let's do it up against some small knives. What should we small knife compare it against? Well, here it is against the Delica. And you can see the Warrior is much, much bigger than the Delica. Here it is against that Chavez 229 again, just because that's a personal favorite of mine. These knives are very similar in length. This, of course, is a drop point. The Tanto is a little more firm, has a little harder edge right here. But you can just see the Reate build quality in both these knives, and you surely can feel it. And here it is against the full-size Presidio, the Presidio 2 from Benchmade. Yeah, the Warrior 2 is a big knife. Not chunky, just long. It's very, very well done. I'm not kidding when I say that Reate does the best blade grinds, as far as I'm concerned, for factory grinds in the industry. They're just beautiful to look at and fantastic to use. The grind lines on this one are absolutely perfect. Exactly the same on both sides of the blade. Secondary bevel is perfect along both sides of the blade, right? No swells, no wide points, no shallower or steeper points. It's an absolute razor blade. The inside of the titanium scales are milled out quite a bit, which does help with weight. It's not going to be a light knife because it is long and it is all titanium, but it's not a tank either. I think they did a really good job. Now at $420, which is what I found this for, it is competing very directly with stuff like the Chris Reeve Umnumzan here and an XM18. These are all slightly higher than $400 knives. These two, of course, are going to appeal to a lot of people because they are USA made. I get that. But from a strict manufacturing angle, these are equals. They really are. In fact, I think the Reate is probably a little more refined than both the CRK and the Hinderer. The lines are a little tighter. The grinds are a little better. I know. USA, I get it. These are fantastic knives. I'm not saying they're not, but the Reate is really, really something special. Although this is a great pair, don't you think? Oh, this is just some hollow ground Tanto goodness going on right here. Anyway, let's go ahead and weigh it out. Just for funsies. Oh, there's my scale. Move the rule number 9 coin there. I'm going to have to get more Liong Mah stuff. I really am. This is very good. All right, let's see. We weigh in at 4.6 ounces. Well, let's do it up against some of its other Reate-made competitors. The 229 comes in at 6.5, whereas this is 4.6. So that's because is there any milling? There is no milling on the inside of this bad boy. This is big, thick slabs of titanium. This one is a little more refined. Well, where does it weigh in against the Umnumzan? Umnumzan is 5 even. And again, this is 4.6, so it's a little lighter than the Umnumzan, but very, very similar in patterning and idea. Different knives entirely, of course. Now the blade is M390 on the on the Warrior 2 here, which is a perfectly excellent blade steel, particularly when it's heat treated correctly. And I have never seen anything to lead me to believe that the folks at Reate aren't doing just that. But let's find out how much of it they've given us. My super expensive, no, they're really not, calipers. All right, let's see. We have 3.65 millimeters of M390. When you mix that with this hollow grind, it's not super thick. I mean, it's thick enough to be durable, and this knife feels really tough. It really does. But that hollow grind that they do there at that factory means this thing comes down to a really, really slicey edge. Now, of course, the tip is not hollow ground, so it's a little more robust, but it's beveled up here so that it doesn't look super chunky. But if you needed to give somebody a little poke to move them along down the road, this would do a marvelous job. And of course, it's good for push cuts. You can drive this into the medium you're trying to cut and slide it down. It cuts very, very well. I have used this to cut all of the basic media that I always cut: seat belts, paracord, plastic tubing. It's held an edge remarkably well. There aren't, really, there's no hot spots. This is a great knife to use if you wanted to do such a thing. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. This is the Liong Mah designed, Reate built Warrior 2 V3. An excellent knife from Liong Mah. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. We'll see you next time.